Welcome to the ASC Podcast with John Goehle, the longest-running podcast specifically focused on the freestanding ambulatory surgery industry. We would like to thank our sponsors, Surgical Information Systems, providing cutting-edge information solutions for surgery providers, RFX Solutions, your all-in-one healthcare regulatory compliance software, MedServe, which is the only digital narcotic cabinet specifically designed and priced for surgery centers, helping standardize processes, compliance, eliminate paper logs, and prevent drug diversion, and Ambulatory Healthcare Strategies, the nation's leading regulatory and accreditation compliance resource for ambulatory surgery centers. For more information about our sponsors, please visit our website at ascpodcast.com.
Welcome to this special episode of the ASC Podcast with John Goehle, recorded on April 30th, 2025, from ASCA 2025 Conference and Expo at the Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center in Aurora, Colorado. This is episode 243 of the longest-running podcast in the ASC industry. I'm Paul Doppelhoff with RFX Solutions, your guest co-host for this episode at ASCA. As a reminder, the regulatory landscape for the ASCs is constantly changing. The content in this episode reflects the most current information available at the time of recording. We encourage all ASCs to remain vigilant and keep up with any updates or new guidelines released by relevant regulatory authorities. And now I would like to introduce the podcast host, John Goehle.
Thank you, Paul, and it's great. Thank you, by the way, for all of our sponsors of the podcast, including RFX. Paul and I have known each other for a very long time through many different jobs on all of our behalfs, I think, and over the years. And it's great to have you here, as well as all of my friends. So I'm going to pass the microphone around, and hopefully the recording will come out well. Just introduce yourself, even if you're not going to speak. I just want everybody to know who's here.
Hello, Simon Schwartz, Strategic Resources Group, Colorado. We manage the Colorado ASC Association and the Oregon ASC Association and provide consulting services to the ASC industry.
Judy D'Ambrosio, one of the Goehle crew, regulatory specialist, medical record specialist.
Hi, Kathy Fody, Ambulatory Strategies, regulatory specialist.
Christina Norman, Director of Operations for Ambulatory Healthcare Strategies.
Kathy Hickman, Administrator for Duchess Ambulatory Surgical Centers in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Wendy Deem, Site Administrator for Idaho Gastroenterology Associates.
Tony Lyons, Financial Specialist with Ambulatory Healthcare Strategies.
Joining us also, but very shy, is Lori Rodrigues, who refused the microphone. So she is our Director of Clinical Services for Ambulatory Healthcare Strategies. So we're going to do 3 episodes, we hope, here over the next 3 days. And by the way, everybody, this is probably where we're going to meet each day. So try to remember this as we send out the notices. So I thought I would start off by asking everybody, what's one goal that you have for being here? I think one of the things that we always want to talk about here is, why are you here? And Simon, to that end, why do people show up for state association meetings? And, so I think it's important for those of you that are listening to know what you can benefit from by attending one of these conferences, as well as, what people are expecting when they show up.
Thank you so much. Events in general are something that bring community together, and I think at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking forward to most. It's somewhat of a high school reunion. You get to see a lot of people in the industry you only get to see once or twice a year. There's opportunities to expand your thoughts related to especially state associations and how you can be engaging with your members more when a lot of them are there, and you get to hear. And I think overall, I'm just looking forward to growth. I say it all the time that, in healthcare, it's a team sport. In our associations, it's a team sport and nonprofit. And right now, this is kind of our industry Super Bowl. So we're all here. We're all looking forward to working together to progress the mission.
I think from a regulatory specialist standpoint, I look forward to questioning, either existing clients or prospective clients on what they're struggling with the most, what's keeping them up at night, to try to be able to help them better. And that's one of our biggest goals at Ambulatory Healthcare Strategies. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I think one of my goals is to learn specific strategies for efficiencies. I think we hear a lot of global answers, but I think to get those pearls of wisdom from other members of the ASC Association is something I'm really looking forward to. And we've gleaned them every year. I think this is something that is very important from this association.
You bring up an interesting point, Kathleen. We come to the conference really kind of for three different reasons, right? One is, of course, to attend the sessions. Another very big part of this, and it's kind of you alluded to, is that networking that we're doing here. But a third part, and you're talking about trying to find solutions, some of it comes out from the conferences, but some of it comes from our interactions with vendors. And, so is anybody here, and we have a lot of listeners, by the way, who are vendors, and they want to know, what are you looking for when you come to a conference like this? The obvious person to hand the mic to right now would probably be Paul, because Paul has those solutions. But I think it's important that we listen too, right, Paul, to what other people think.
Yeah, I appreciate that, John. This is a great opportunity, as Simon mentioned, for us to network and get around and see the folks we only get a chance to see a couple of times a year, and really share what's new with our company and with our products. I know with our RFX solutions, we're aimed at helping our clients reduce the burden of healthcare compliance, and we have 2 new modules that we've released that not everybody knows about with our LMS system and with our incident reporting. So we really believe that becoming that single source of truth, a lot of folks manage regulatory and compliance in a lot of different ways, whether it be Outlook invitations or Excel spreadsheets or one software here and one software there. And this is really our opportunity to really get in front of the entire ASC community and let them know, what makes us a little bit different. So we're excited about that.
So now the question to the attendees is, what are you looking for specifically here?
Thanks, John. I'd like to start because I think I'm a little bit different. I'm in Paul's camp when it comes to vendor interactions. You brought up something really important, and that's expertise. Our vendors are our experts, especially from a state association perspective. So for me, the ability to walk through the exhibit hall and find future speakers, find content and topics that we're looking forward to, it's a great space. The other thing I wanted to mention, because you said you have a lot of listeners, and it's probably not anything special or new to those that are listening, but there's a lot of business that's done among the vendors in the room. Surgery centers are notorious for not wanting to be the first person to be the guinea pig. They want to be the second, the third, and the fourth. But the businesses that is handed back and forth between those experts in the room, the different vendors, the introductions that are made, for me, that's a huge piece of benefit of participation, especially with our local experts, not only for content creation and development, but also so, our resident experts and new people in the industry get to meet the legacies in our industry that have really established what is the foundation of technology, services, and all of these different things that make our ASCs run efficiently.
Just to add to that, I think as administrators, we become very complacent with what we have in place. We think our contracts are perfect, our vendors are perfect, and there's no one else out there. I think the vendors here will open our eyes into other opportunities to say, wow, maybe I can do it differently. I didn't realize that you're out there and that what I'm doing is maybe 20 years old, 10 years old, 5 years old. So I think that's an opportunity for us to grow just because the vendors will help us understand what's new.
For me, I connected with John in the past couple of years after being kind of thrown into leadership and taking on this role, which has been great and exciting. But the biggest thing I've learned is that you just don't know what you don't know. And being here, this is the first time our little surgery center has kind of come this far and gone to a national conference. So it's very exciting, and I'm just excited to take it all in and learn what I don't know.
And wait till you see the vendor hall. It's kind of high, kind of large this year. And don't forget, of course, to stop by our booth for HS, because we have a whole bunch of, and I want to shout out to Christina Norman, who is our director of operations, who has been put in charge of trying to make it look pretty, given that we're in a back corner. And I mentioned this before. And by the way, joining us is Victor Alves. He's a pharmacy consultant with us. Introduce yourself and your role.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. It was a good opportunity to come by and say hello to you guys. My name is Victor Alves. I am a consultant pharmacist providing services to ambulatory surgery centers, obviously, as well as long-term care facilities, but mainly ambulatory surgery centers, focusing on medication management, patient safety, keeping everybody within regulatory compliance.
And Victor is no stranger to the podcast. He's been on a couple times and has done some of our conferences over the years too. Victor, this is an interesting question because, of course, you don't have a booth here like the other vendors that are here. What are you looking to get out of this conference? And what type of the next thing we're going to talk about is what you do when you're mingling, because I think mingling, that interaction with other people is so important. So what are you looking for?
So for me, the opportunity was it was asked to come out and be a speaker, and so it's a unique opportunity. One, to be a speaker, to be able to share some of my thoughts with the audience, but also to spend some time learning from what other folks are doing, what some of the pain points some of the centers are dealing with, some of the things that I certainly can help them with, but mainly just trying to figure out what others are doing in similar situations, because ultimately we're all fighting for the same thing. We're all trying to fight the same battle, running into the same issues. And anytime you have discussions with such a diverse group of folks, you learn different ways of seeing things and ways that people are being creative in handling difficult situations, whether it's staffing or survey issues. And so it's always a learning opportunity. Although I'm here in a teaching capacity, right, as a speaker, you're always learning from other great speakers as well, too.
Well, that's so true. I mean, I'm a speaker too. We all learn something here. I've been coming, this is, by the way, is my 36th year coming here. When I added that up, and they're still inviting me back. Luckily, my comic relief is off microphone, but she pointed they're still inviting me back. But 36 years, not a single interruption. As a matter of fact, 1 year I came here. I think I've told this story before. 1 year I came here. My daughter, this is back when now she works for a company and she's like older. But anyway, she had a concert. I did a speech, flew home, and flew back to end the conference. That's how dedicated.
That's me last year.
Yeah, there you go.
Literally, I zigzag back and forth.
This is what we do. So let's talk about mingling. I use the term mingling, but this interaction that you have with other people. So the first question is, anybody had any yet? And what did you discuss? Actually, Simon and I just had a great conversation, which, Simon, if you can talk about that a little bit. But what are you expecting out of this, and what are the types of interactions that you've had so far, and what are you hoping perhaps who are you hoping to run into to have that conversation?
So my people call it the art of schmoozing. We had a lovely conversation with Dr. David Shapiro and a few other people. But I think, the conversation and the schmooze at hand was having the conversation about how virtual events and collaboration among state associations are not cannibalism, and they actually support one another, that everyone sticks to their routes, and there's this ability for everyone to move forward. So, and members of state associations getting those benefits and feeling supported in a number of different ways. And that little conversation could potentially mean multiple new states participating in something that y'all started a few years ago. My associations got involved last year, and we plan to continue to participate in them moving forward. But yeah, the art of schmoozing is incredibly important. And I think, when it comes to here and schmoozing and talking in general, I think that our industry, people are good at it. People like to talk to one another. So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, and I started out, as I said, 36 years ago in this, and some of the people that I met in those days were, leaders and became real mentors for me. I think another thing that we have to recognize is sometimes that interaction is more important than some of these sessions that we go to.
I think for me personally, I'm having a surreal moment because this is the first year where I'm in a vendor position and not necessarily an attendee position, as I was in my prior role as an administrator. And with John having been one of my mentors when I was the attendee and now he's my boss, it's a very surreal position that I'm in right now. And I'm thoroughly excited to be able to interact with, existing clients, prospective clients, and to hear those moments where you feel like you're not alone, those kind of moments, and kind of help them, talk them through it and see if there's anything that we can prospectively help them with. Because, when I was in the administrator role, I wish I would have had that person to talk to. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
I think as a vendor, one of the great things is just to have that face-to-face interaction. I mean, most of the time I'm very, very remote, and it's an opportunity to meet my clients face-to-face. I've met several today already, just before the vendor hall even opened, including Wendy, that I hadn't had the opportunity to meet face-to-face before. So it's there's always some nuance that you can pick up in true face-to-face conversation that you just can't get over Teams or over the phone. So I really appreciate that opportunity that ASCA provides for us.
I want to go back to something, Simon. I keep picking on Simon here, but Simon says, Simon was referring to the multi-state conference. The 2025 multi-state conference will be the third week in November. It's the week before Thanksgiving. So put it on your calendars, and if you are a state association leader, please reach out to me, and I'll be trying to query a bunch of it, but reach out to me at info@ascpodcast.com, and we'd love to have you sign up. It is free for everybody. So, Christina, you said something earlier, which is one of our taglines for the company, and that is, and I've said this to you before, or to our clients before. One of the questions I ask every client when I do a face-to-face meeting is, what is keeping you up at night? Now, half the time people say everything about the surgery center or the survey. So my question to our audience is, what is keeping you up at night right now? And what do you hope to get out of here? Is any particular interaction that you hope to do? Is there any particular presentation you're looking for? Is there any particular vendor that you think, might have a solution, hint, 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 RFX, that you're looking for a good interaction here?
For us, I think the biggest thing has been employed to a third ASC, and ASC making it so it's a place that they really want to be.
30-minute conversation wins at 15.
So this is a real test of our microphones to see how well they isolate. So there is a leaf blower going on in the background. We apologize. What's keeping all of you awake? This is a question anybody can answer. What's keeping you awake?
I think what's keeping me awake is the uncertainty of the industry in itself. And we know that there are changes and the cuts and the payer mixes are changing. And I think we'll all share that when we meet with each other. And I think maybe some of the vendors can help us understand some of the things we can do. We're going to have to offset that somehow. We're going to be losing some funding somewhere here and there, and we should understand that's going to happen. So how can vendors help us change corners, cut corners, move things, and make it different, and maybe salvage some other things in our center to sort of, understand how the cuts are going to come around, and we need to just head it straight on and manage it.
I think in just speaking with a lot of our clients, a lot of the stuff that keeps them up at night is not only are they having to juggle, things like regulatory compliance, whether it's your accreditation standards that you're trying to maintain, your federal standards, state regulations, all of it. But on top of that, you're having to handle the daily call-ins. You're having to handle maybe even throwing yourself into the clinical mix because you're so short-staffed. And that's what's keeping them up at night. So I think it'll be interesting to see the takeaways that people take away from, corroborating with cohorts here and making new friends.
I can give you one of my slides from tomorrow's presentation, which I think talks about this. What keeps me up at night, and I think what keeps a lot of folks up at night, is the constant oversight. The oversight from so many regulatory bodies, right? We have CMS that looks down on us. We have the Department of Health in our state that looks down on us. The accrediting agencies, AAA, Joint Commission, Quad A, on and on, right? USP, the DEA, the FDA, the CDC, we can keep on going, right? The acronyms keep on coming. And all of these folks continue to update their guidelines. Guidelines continue to change. And so keeping ahead of that, being on the leading edge of that, is extremely difficult. It's one of the things that my centers struggle with, and it's one of the things that I bring to them, is coalescing all of that, bringing it to them so that they don't feel like they're on an island, because they often do, right? A facility by itself, or even with 2 or 3 facilities, you're isolated from the rest of the world in terms of you don't know what's going on, even if it's down the street at another facility. And so keeping up with all of the changes and feeling like you're isolated and alone can be very overwhelming to the facilities. And so the keeping up with part keeps me up at night, because it's what I do with all of my extra time, is making sure that I'm prepared to keep my clients on the leading edge of all of the regulatory things, the patient safety things that they need to be aware of.
Lori, you're trying to avoid talking. But Lori, as our Director of Clinical Services and one of those individuals that spends a lot of time, perhaps the most time of all of us, directly, looking at the regulatory compliance of centers, both as a AAAC surveyor and as a, within our own things. You ask these questions of our clients quite a bit. What trends are you seeing right now in those things that are keeping people awake?
Well, I have Victor on speed dial when it comes to any medication issues, and that's a beautiful thing about having a pharmacy consultant, because we know that our physicians and our anesthesia providers aren't very good at complying with the regulations. And so that, I think, is a really big deal that I see at many, many of our centers.
Well, I want to thank everybody that came today. This is, as we always do, we like to kick it off by kind of talking about what our expectations are over the next 2 days. We'll sit down and talk about what we've learned during the conference and some of the other interactions that we have with people. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the time. And I don't know how much will come out on the microphone of the ongoing noise that we have in the background. But we're all heading down to the exhibit hall now to drink alcohol. To see the exhibits from all of the exhibitors. But we'll see you tomorrow. And Paul, why don't you take us home?
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The thoughts and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of the Ambulatory Healthcare Strategies or the podcast sponsors. Always consult with qualified professionals and regulatory bodies before implementing changes at your ASC. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow.
This has been a production of Eden Group Development. All rights are reserved.
It's been a long day, and the surveyors just left, and you are exhausted. And looking at the list of items that you have to address, you wonder, how can I deal with this and still take care of my patients? More importantly, you wonder, how can I ever keep up with all of the regulations, standards, and accreditation requirements? How can I always be prepared for a survey and reduce my stress levels? Well, that's what Ambulatory Healthcare Strategies does, day in, day out. We become your outsourced regulatory and accreditation resource. We can maintain your policy manual, develop your education programs, help out with fire and disaster drills, do your risk assessments, oversee your quality improvement activities, help run your quality improvement meetings and governing body meetings, and we can even prepare your monthly or quarterly financial statements and help you figure out where you are financially. We are a retainer-based service. We don't take ownership. We don't charge based on your revenue. We have one fixed monthly fee, and we can tailor your services to your exact needs. So whether you're looking for help getting over a survey, preparing for a survey, or looking for a long-term relationship to assist you with your ongoing regulatory and/or financial needs, please give us a call at 585-594-1167 or email us at info@ahstrategies.com. That is info@ah-strategies.com, or visit our website at ah-strategies.com.
This episode of the ASC Podcast with John Goehle is sponsored by Surgical Information Systems, RFX Solutions, MedServ, and Ambulatory Healthcare Strategies. Surgical Information Systems provides cutting-edge information solutions for surgery providers. RFX Solutions is your all-in-one healthcare regulatory compliance software. MedServ, which offers the only digital narcotics cabinet specifically designed and priced for surgery centers, helping develop standardized processes and compliance, eliminate paper logs, and prevent drug diversion. And Ambulatory Healthcare Strategies is the nation's leading regulatory and accreditation compliance resource for ambulatory surgery centers. For more information about our sponsors, visit our website at ascpodcast.com. This podcast is an educational and operational tool and is not intended to be a comprehensive resource for all rules, regulations, and standards that an ambulatory surgery center must meet. The advice provided should not be considered as, nor does it constitute legal advice or opinion. When reviewing specific situations involving legal and regulatory issues, attorneys and other professionals should be consulted. This has been a production of Eden Group Development. All rights are reserved. If you're interested in advertising or sponsoring the ASC Podcast with John Goehle, please email us at info@ascpodcast.com. We would love to hear your questions and comments. Please email us at comments@ascpodcast.com.